Well, Judd, thanks so much, man, for being on the podcast with me today. This is awesome.
It's a little surreal, really, because there's not many podcasts that I listen to every episode. This is the only one, and so it's a little surreal. Like, oh, no one's going to want to hear from me, but here we are.
You know what, though? Absolutely. I mean, you and I we've been finishing each other's sentences for over a year now as buddies. So we like a lot of the same things. We have a love for travel. We have a love for overlanding, for, doing things that we enjoy with people that we enjoy. So, and you've got a great story. I think it's an inspirational story that helps people kind of frame the possibility of adventure in their life. Not only, of course, with vehicles, but motorcycles, with their family, ways that you have created a life of adventure for yourself and for your kids. And adventure can come in so many different forms. It can come in the form of business. It can come in the form of, in your case, you were a professional rock climber. You were a mountain biker, a downhill mountain biker. You were an outdoor adventure athlete for many, many years. And then you started your own business. And now you create some of the best, expedition vehicles on the market. So there's this progression that your life has taken. And I'd love to hear that story. So that's why we're on the podcast together today.
A special thanks to Hankook Dynapro Tires for supporting this week's podcast. Visit expeditionportal.com to see our content series in partnership with Hankook, where you'll learn about this year's Jeep Beach event in Daytona, Florida, get tips on exploring the Ocala National Forest, and take a tour of the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America at the Daytona International Speedway. We also take a close look at how to choose a mud terrain, all-terrain, or hybrid rugged terrain tire using the Hankook Dynapro tire lineup as examples.
Yeah, I mean, I feel blessed, because when I was younger and I climbed around the world. I had these amazing opportunities to just see the world, but with no money. Yeah. And so when you talk, like on the podcast, you talk about people think I got to save, I got to save, I got to save. Well, I think I was as happy when I was 21 years old with no money, traveling with, and still trying to do all these things. As you get later in life with money, I think some people maybe focus on the wrong thing, but yeah, I just have this life of adventure. I had all these outdoor companies when I was young, but they didn't make a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, my first job was at 15. I was stocking shelves at REI, and I just got into this kind of the climbing scene and outdoor, and I was around it all. And back in those days, REI was small, so you actually worked with professional athletes because there wasn't any money. They all had to have a job at REI
Sure.
And so I was surrounded by these like amazing mentors in the outdoors that, were 40, 50 years old and just legends and,
yes.
Climbed with Yvon Chouinard and all these things. So anyway, it was just cool. But then I got to where there's kind of like good, better, best is that life of the outdoors at that age was good, but it wasn't necessarily the best thing for me. It wasn't bad. But as we started to have the two younger boys, our two oldest boys, I just started kind of priorities shifted. And so, yeah, I did get into a little more risk with some different businesses that weren't outdoor related. But it was magical in a way because now when I was going outdoors, it was fully for recreation, where before you had like a film crew with you or a radio crew. And you would know, because this has been your life probably, where it's like I would climb something and the shot wasn't quite right, come back down and climb it again. And so it came into a little bit of a job. So it was neat to then have what might be considered a normal career, but it also, when you've risked your life in this adventures, like, the climbing and other things, business didn't seem like a risk.
Yeah.
And especially when you're in your mid to late 20s, it's like, if this fails, they can take everything I've got and they're end up with some credit card debt. There's nothing to take. And so
you can reset and redo it again.
But it didn't feel risky to me because my whole life was a kind of a risky adventure.
Yeah.
I love that feeling of, which is why all our companies are called adrenaline, is that kind of, you're almost out of control.
Yeah.
And that's like, you're trying to control something right on the verge of out of control. If you're downhill mountain biking or skiing, it's like, you're this close to out of control, but that's when that adrenaline rush comes in.
Yeah.
And I just got addicted to that feeling, which has put me in the hospital too many times.
Well, that definitely describes any version of downhill skiing I've ever done, which was out of control. That's such an interesting observation, and I think it's something that relates directly to adventure, and I think it's why so many people are compelled to travel and to see new places in the world because it helps us gain confidence for other parts of life. So the fact that you had learned to create a plan, you had learned to work with a team, you had learned to execute on the plan when you went up the mountain. There's a specific route that you needed to follow in order to get to the top successfully and safely. All of those things prepared you for business.
Oh, it is. There's so many parallels. You know, it's interesting in business. I see in a climbing team, your life depends on your team.
Yeah.
And in business, your life doesn't depend on it. But I see so many businesses that it's like they just have they have mediocre people around them,
Yeah.
or they're in the wrong seat on the bus is the acronym or whatever. But in climbing, you don't mess with that.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, if I break my leg, at 18,000 feet, who's getting me? Is this team? Where in business, I see too often where it's just, I've made analogy sometimes is when I grew up, we talk about, we didn't watch TV much,
Yeah.
you and I both, but we had one of those wooden TV, 1,000 pound, looks like a gun safe TV console.
Yeah.
And it didn't have a remote
Same with me.
control.
Yeah.
And there's like 6 or 8, I'm 50 years old, so I don't know how many channels there were, maybe 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. But sometimes the channel wasn't great, what you were watching, but it wasn't bad enough that you'd get up and change the channel.
What didn't motivate you to change?
Yeah, it had to be something bad. Like my dad liked ice skating or Star Trek, and I couldn't stand it. It had to be something like that. I'm like, oh, not Star Trek. Here we go, change this. But in business, I see people do it with employees. It's like, and it's not that they're a bad human or a bad person. They're just not a fit for that. But sometimes it's like the only time is like there's probably something better. Get up off your butt.
Yeah.
Go change the channel. And so in business, in climbing, you would never do that. It's like if this person's maybe not good enough, they're not good enough at all because it could kill us all.
Yeah.
And so,
including them,
yeah, well, it's not fair to them either.
Yeah.
It's going to be miserable for them if they're up. But in businesses, it's the same thing. If an employee's not a good fit, sometimes businesses just let them run. It's like, and then it creates this kind of wedge. It's not fun to go to work anymore. So there's a lot of analogies between outdoor adventure. You would know as well on these. I mean, you've risked your life in vehicles on teams, and I've heard you brag about how great those teams work together. But if it didn't, or you didn't trust somebody or something, it'd be scary.
It absolutely is. And imagine trying to catch some rest when you're driving across Russia. If you don't trust the driver that is across from you,
You can't sleep.
you can't sleep. And, even it was in Russia, we had to, tell one of the team members that they weren't allowed to drive anymore under any circumstances. They just weren't able to operate the vehicle in a way that we all deemed to be safe.
Yeah.
So, and they drove every day in their own life, but within the confines of our expedition, it was far too much risk to let them continue to operate the vehicle. They demonstrated, a lack of mechanical sympathy and a lack of control too many times, and then you just have to make it stop.
And that's hard because I know that you love and care about everybody.
I do.
And you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings,
Yeah.
but you're like, but I also don't want our team to die
Yeah, that's right.
or get seriously hurt. And so it is. I found it's easier to make those decisions when your life is at danger.
Yep.
In businesses, people seem to be almost too tolerant, and then their business just stays mediocre.
That's an interesting point you just made because I just had a realization when you said it is I got to the point where I would only let myself be in that truck with him. And I had a realization, if I won't let anyone else ride with him because it's not safe, why am I putting myself
Oh yeah.
in that same risk? What makes me any more dispensable
Right.
than anybody else? And that was when I told him, I said, you got to pull over and you can't drive the vehicle.
That's hard. I bet that was a hard.
It was.
I bet it stewed with you for a while. How do I do this the right way?
It was because the individual had a very key role in other parts of the trip, and I was worried that maybe he'd bounce or whatever. He was a translator for us, so it was like a really key,
Right.
position.
But
on the trip.
that relates to business too, because he was key at a certain aspect.
Yeah,
And so you put him in a different position. It's the wrong position.
Yeah.
It's not that he's a bad person or doesn't have skills. His skills are far better than your guys's at
sure.
a different aspect, a different skill set that he has. So channel him in. So in business, same thing. Channel your team into those skill sets they have.
and I was realizing on that trip too is, I was worried that if you take one driver out of the mix, now everyone has to drive that many more hours in total. So I was like, people are going to get tired. But then I was realizing I was getting no rest. So it was going to be
Oh,
this
yeah.
cascade of events, which you're very familiar with from climbing. Those cascade of events is where you make that one little decision or that one little compromise, and then it results in you needing to make a bigger compromise, or things start to not go well, or you get a little bit too deep, and then
Hmm.
it's cascades from one problem to the next until it's a really big issue.
And you look back and said, I should have done something about this 6 days ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the other things that I think comes out of, and Yvon Chouinard talks about this in some of his books as well, but how have you as a business owner taken some of your outdoor experience in knowing when to turn around? That's one of the things that it must be the most difficult for a mountaineer is to turn back at some point close to the summit, maybe even the summits within view. How did you reconcile that as a climber, and then how did you incorporate that into business to know like when it's time to either change course or to come off the mountain and let something go?
Yeah, it's hard, especially when you've trained your whole life and then really seriously trained for months, and you've put everything you've got on it, and then you also feel the pressure of sponsors.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, hey, am I going to lose this sponsorship if I don't perform, if I don't make it to the summit?
Yeah.
And so you've got to you need to make those decisions in your planning of like, this is the decision I'm going to make if this circumstance happens. Because
Ahead of time.
I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's something like 70 or 80% of all deaths happen on the descent.
Yeah.
And it's because people don't realize, like the world thinks the summit is it. You've completed it. No, the summit's halfway. You still got to come all the way back down.
Yeah.
And so people will use all their energy to get to the summit and thinking that that's the finish line. No, in climbing, that's halfway. You
Yeah.
still got to double that again. And so you get lazy, you got gravity on your side, which, makes you trip up or do stuff, and you're tired, your brain's not working as well. My brain doesn't work anyway at sea level, but at altitude, it's even worse. You
Yeah.
don't have the oxygen near the oxygen you have. And so you really have to know before you're even climbing if these situations happen, what can I do? And then also be willing to adapt.
Yeah.
Really be willing. Sometimes a detour, what we might consider a detour, is in our mind. It's like, this is my business plan, and you start on that, and it's like, no. Sometimes the detour is the right plan. You just didn't have that as the right route the first
Yeah.
time. And in business, you look like, hey, we need a detour, and but also sometimes in business, we get a lot of business owners. We all have like a little bit of ADHD. To take that risk and do stuff. Sometimes business owners can just wear out our team because we're detouring. No, this idea. Oh no, this idea. And there's a reason why a lot of times people want to work for somebody, because they're more risk adverse.
That makes
And
sense.
so you wear them out as an entrepreneur if you're just constantly pivoting all the time. So there's things that, I look back now going, oh, if I had the energy now that I had in my 20s and 30s, but the wisdom I have now,
man.
because wisdom comes from making mistakes.
Always.
If anyone's like, oh, Judd knows this or that, it's because I made mistakes, not because I'm smart.
Yeah.
It's like, I
Same
just
with me.
learned. So I look back and like, okay, I got a lot of wisdom because I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking through that going through the truck the other day, just like look out for that, think about this, all because of the mistakes that I've made or the things that I've learned along the way. And I think that that's such a key piece of making good decisions, not only as an overlander or as an adventurer, but also as a business person, is to be willing to accept the fact that we make mistakes. And that's human to make mistakes. But how do we make sure we don't do it again? How do we learn from
Yeah.
it? And that student's mindset, that student's heart, is such a key piece to success, I believe. The business owners that you see that just kind of they achieve success like an anvil. They keep hammering on themselves and others. It's usually a pretty hollow summit for them because they haven't built a community of people around them. They get to celebrate the win.
Yeah, it is. One thing I learned early on is that, I don't know if I was that really good of a business owner. If I was good at anything, it was hiring a good team. And one of the things I learned is that you surround yourself with people that are better than you are. So when you said you need that translator, It's like, obviously he's better than the rest of the team was, so you need him, and then keep him. Don't dilute his skills to
Yeah.
keep him on, what he's best at. But yeah, in business, sometimes as I'm trying to put people in the right position, it's like there is some pivoting and moving. But one of the best things I did is I would interview my employees at least once a year. It was usually twice a year. And I had questions like, my favorite questions were like, if you were the owner of this company, what's at least one thing you would change? And I get the best feedback. And then they feel like they're part of the decision making. And then I would put together, I'd compile, like, okay, after we interviewed everyone, and at times I had over 100 employees. So this would take me months of doing it. But it was so critical because your employees know the business better than you do, at least the aspects they're involved in. And I'd come back with the team. This is what I learned from you guys. What do you think? And then it was buying because it was their idea. Right. Okay, so I learned this. 5 of you said this. Do you think this is a good idea?
Right.
And then that's like, yeah, it's a great idea. And then when you make that change, now you're doing that detour. Yeah. Well, the whole team grabbed hold of the steering wheel for that detour.
Oh, that's a great example, and it's something that we can even ask when we're with our travel companions. So, like, you travel a lot with your family, so stopping along the way and asking them what's working, what's not working. Mm-hmm. Are you having fun? What would make this more fun, or what would make this more meaningful for you? And it's surprising what your team, whether it be business or travel, will give you that feedback of like, you know what, I really wish we had stopped at that museum or whatever.
Oh yeah, my wife's much better at enjoying the moment than I am. To me, it's all destination focused. So, last year we went to Europe, and we were driving, through the Alps and doing stuff. It's like, oh, from Zermatt to Lauterbrunnen, and then maybe we could go over to Chamonix, and anyway, I planned this all. And you end up in like 6-hour days in the car day after day, and we got to Zermatt, and we were there 3 days. And it was the first time we kind of relaxed, and I realized, like, I'm wearing her out. Yeah. Like, this is not fun for her to be in the car. Right. But for me, it's like, I want to see this. I want to show. It was more, we had another couple with us, and they hadn't been there before. I wanted to show them everything. And I realized, like, the foot was on the gas too much for my wife. Like, that, and I think the other couple too. It's like, sometimes it's like, boy, you got to stop and take it in and enjoy the moment. We could have spent the entire time in Zermatt, maybe one other town, and maybe had even a better time.
But what a gift for you to recognize that your travel companions needed that small shift in the way that you were traveling.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times whoever's at the wheel of the overland trip, they forget to pay attention either to what their own. I've done that myself, and I've talked about it on the podcast, is that I realize, like, far too often in my journeys, I've just had the gas down to make it to some, objective that no one on the earth placed on me other than myself.
Right.
And that's it. It's been an interesting lesson to me, and I'm working harder on trying to slow down and experience a little bit more of the journey, as opposed to being so focused on the goal.
Right.
So
it is. That's
tough.
I'm trying to, and it's hard because it's like so goal driven or checklist, or if I do this and that. And so that was part of the reason that I kind of semi-retired, is there was just a realization, like, what am I doing this for? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it what? Yeah. Like, what's this drive? And then what am I sacrificing? So, and I thought it was so important when I was younger to make money. Yeah. Or just like, and just to be and also not so much driven by money. It's just like, what can I accomplish? Like, what can we build? What can we do? Or what can I see? What can I travel and do, or whatever? So I was so focused on that. And I realized that in order to try, when your focus is so money driven, you don't realize that you give up time. And I just realized I was giving up so much precious time. And then the older I got, I'm like, it's not about money anymore. I want my time back. Yeah. And that was really the decision that came back to me as my oldest son and his wife had a baby, and I'm like, am I going to be available to Grandpa, or am I spending too much time at work? It's easy for us to fall in that, because at work you see instant results. Yeah. Like, if I work this much harder, especially as an owner, I work this much harder, the company makes this much more money. Yeah. And it's so easy to start working nights and weekends, because you almost get addicted to this success and to, oh, wow, you've done this, and everyone's telling you how great it is. No one's really telling you that when you're spending time with your 10-year-old throwing a football. Yeah. You're not getting that thing. it's not until that 10-year-old is years old as my oldest son is, and they call you and want to hang out.
Yeah.
That's the win. And so it's hard for us to realize how much better that is than money.
Yeah.
And so the older I got, I'm like, I just want my time back. And I said, how can I do that? I love the outdoor industry, and I'd been out of it for a while. So that's what kind of led to us building these trucks and purposely not scaling it into a large business. And I tell my wife weekly at least, do not let me grow this. Do not let me blow this up, because it's so easy to get addicted to that again. Because like,
Right.
oh, people love our trucks. Everyone wants them. Let's build more. Let's build more. Like, no, it's the time I want back. But at the same time, I love being back in the outdoor industry, in a business that can be profitable, and also just doing it to, my son Cole works with us. And so to mentor him, and then I brought in a partner, Casey, who'd taken care of my fleet of these marketing vehicles that were Unimogs and Volvos and Pinzgauers. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Ed, he's done so much for me." And I think, how can I want to bring him as a partner?
Yeah.
That's another kind of thing with business is I see people do partnerships because they seems like less risk, and partnerships can be really bad. To me, the only time a partnership works is when 1 and 1 equals more than 2.
Yeah. Sure.
And you've discovered that recently. It sounds like with
Yeah.
with you merging, is there's no way I could do Adrenaline Industries and build these trucks without Casey.
Yeah.
And I knew he would be so much more motivated. He never asked for ownership, and I'm like, I want Casey as a partner because I will be so much more successful with him. But sometimes business owners, they're so alike, they're like, oh, let's just share the risk and partner. But the business isn't any better. So to me, partnerships only work if the 2 or 3 or 4 of you end up you're so much more successful together than you are individually. So I'm
And
guessing that's you,
definitely,
right?
yeah, that's definitely the truth with ex Overland and Clay and Rochelle. I mean, they had built such a successful business, and in areas that we were not really that present, like in video and these big engagements with the OEMs, and then we were successful in areas that they weren't. So together, yeah, it's definitely 1 + 1 equals 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And their team is also really exceptional in areas that we were weak. So I'm excited already to see the momentum that's come just from having a really big team. Where everybody's got a lot of skill, like a very deep well of experience. So that to me, that's really fun. You talk about the time thing. I think it's one of the best quotes from the Dalai Lama. He said a man will spend all of his time to gain money, and then he has to spend all of his money to gain back his health. Or he'll spend all of his health to gain money, and then he'll spend all of his money to get back his health.
Oh
And
yeah.
and how many times have you and I seen that in the men that are in our lives, or the people that are in our lives that have just pursued material success at the expense of their time and their health and their families, and then they spend all of it again just to try to get a little piece of it back.
Right.
And I know that has been the case in my own life. I mean, it's difficult, and I try to be really careful around when I give advice on this stuff, because I mean, you and I have what's called survivorship bias. Like, you and I made it to the summit. You sold your business, I've sold my business, and I look back and I'm like, well, if I had changed anything, would I have made it to the summit? I don't know. So it's hard for me, but I do realize that I gave up a lot. I gave up a lot of my health, and I gave up a lot of my time to get to that. And then you start to wonder, like, could I have been a little more mindful? Could I have made some better choices that still allowed me to get to the summit? Maybe it would have taken a little bit longer, or maybe it would have been a different path. But it's certainly important, I think, for people to think about what the cost is.
Yeah. And it's also to just help protect people's emotional health. Like, if someone's caught in that trap right now, don't have regrets. Don't go back. Just
Yeah.
be better now.
Yeah.
Go forward and do that,
That's
So,
right.
yeah, you could beat yourself up so bad with regrets and things like
Yeah.
that. But
And
look
I
back
do
and
that. I beat myself up for, like, because again, for me, it was never about money. It was always about accomplishing something or pushing myself. And that I was that way from my first memories. I was just always driven to, like, one more sack on the football team, or one more,
yeah,
you know, one more trip, or one more country, or one more article, or whatever,
yeah,
and yeah, it was an internal fire that I had a hard time directing in any other direction other than towards progress from, in my career.
But also you able to be in a career that not many people are more passionate about than you. So that's another
Okay.
thing when you know, like, how blessed are
I do
you to
love what
be
I
able,
do.
like, it's like, and everyone knows you do,
Yeah.
and it makes it easy and believable
Yeah.
because it's just like you love it. There's
I
no
do.
doubt you love what you do.
Yeah, I've never woken up and been like, I don't want to go to work today.
Yeah,
Like my eyes wake up and I'm like, let's go.
that's so
Let's go.
great.
Let's go
Yeah,
for sure. But it is interesting trying to strike that balance. And you know, maybe we pivot a little bit towards that idea of a summit. You've worked for decades to build your business. You had a successful exit from your business. What were some of the things that you found helped you make that transition in as healthy of a way as possible? Was it the fact that you had adrenaline as a little bit of a new challenge, but it wasn't overcoming, or too
yeah.
much? What did you feel? How did you make that transition yourself?
That's a good. It's a good question and I wasn't looking to sell, so I had a disaster cleanup business with offices kind of in the Rocky Mountain region, and I never thought I would sell. I realized that some of my general managers and vice presidents were far better than I was, so I kind of purposely transitioned more into a mentor role to get out of their way,
Yeah,
and and that ended up being really lucky because there was a lot of interest in our business because of our locations, and our culture and everything was great. And so there was probably about 10 companies that wanted to purchase ours. And they'd been after me for 10 years or so. And I'm like, no, I love it. But then as I turned into more of a mentor role, then we started the Adrenaline Industries because I wanted to give that opportunity for Casey. And plus, it was selfish that we would build a truck for just personal use. It was never like, oh, I'm going to turn this into a company.
yeah,
It was, we kind of built it for personal use. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the next one, we changed this and this and this. It's going to be so much better.
yeah,
And then you would sell that one. I'm like, oh, we made a little bit of money. And so then it was the next one, the next one. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I think we're pretty good at this. I think Casey's pretty good at this. I'm
yeah,
not good. I'm like, Casey's pretty good at this. So let's do it. And that was all at the same time where I just started also realizing as I consulted for other restoration companies, and I'd see these people, men and women, that just get burned out, and then they badmouth the industry, they badmouth their job, and then their whole team is badmouthing it. They all hate it. I'm like, if I ever get that way, I need to get out. And I could see myself start to lose the passion. And I'm like, the worst thing I can do for my team is for me to lose the passion.
yeah, sure.
So I need to give them the opportunity to sell. So my 5 key employees, the vice presidents and stuff there, I gave them equity in the parent company that bought us. And so now they all have significant shares that hopefully turns into a great retirement for them.
Yeah,
So it was better for me and better for them. And I wanted to make sure I protected them. So
yeah,
all that kind of came, and it was just this feeling of like, it's the time. And it was literally overnight. My wife was actually in Africa on a humanitarian trip with one of our kids. And she would FaceTime me at night. And Sadie, I think I want to sell ARS.
yeah,
And she's like, what? It was kind of, and I told her why. And luckily, my whole life, she's like, go for it. Like
yeah.
my wife, I don't know why she trusts me, but she is.
She's your biggest
There's
champion.
no way I could have. There's no way with most, people that I could that maybe I would have married would let me take the risks that she did.
Yeah,
And she just trusts me,
yeah,
good or bad.
yeah,
She's amazing. And she said, go for it. And then it was just foot on the gas. Like, okay. So I called up those 10 companies that shown interest just to make sure hey, I knew there was one in particular that I knew had the best culture that matched with ours. And I told them from the start, I said, I'm going to sell to you, but I'm having a few others give us offers just to keep you honest, to make sure the price, and it was in realm. And I also involved these 5 employees in that decision as well.
that's amazing.
So that way they like, who should we sell to? And we all chose the same company.
And it sounds like you were surrounded by a village. Like you had the support of your wife and your family. You had a great executive team that was running the business as well or better than you could have.
Oh yeah.
You picked the right people.
And they're crushing it now. It's been 2.5 years, and some of the offices are doing double the sales. So I just had to get out of their way.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and of course, congratulations is due. I mean, I know how much time and energy you put into that. You and I have had great conversations around your business, and it's cool to see where you are now with your family, and you get to do a lot of these things that bring you joy. You kind of back into the outdoor industry again. You get to have some fun with that. So we're going to pivot the conversation a little bit towards cars because, of course,
Hey.
this is an overlanding podcast.
And I love talking about cars.
Yeah, exactly. You and I both do.
And a special thanks to Warner, home of the Ineos Grenadier and the Mercedes-Benz Van Center, Warner. Whether you're traveling through canyon country in your Sprinter or across continents in your Grenadier, Warner has become a trusted stop for serious overlanders. I have personally serviced my quartermaster at Warner and have seen the work they do to their successful Rebelle Rally competition Grenadiers. Matt Scott has experienced Warner too, helping his father-in-law buy a Grenadier from the dealership a few months ago. Warner has become known for supporting travelers in both Grenadiers and Sprinters, whether it's outfitting, maintenance, or helping with complex expedition builds. I have seen their team contribute to the community through sponsoring events, Rebelle Rally teams, vehicle training, and remote technical support. It also helps that Tony Warner is an overlander himself, so he is committed to fitting high-quality components and helping fellow travelers. As a thank you for the podcast listeners, they are offering $500 off a new or used Ineos or Sprinter, or 10% off parts and service up to $500. Just tell them you heard about it on the Overland Journal podcast. Thanks again, Tony, and the Warner team for your support of this week's podcast.
But I also thought it was such a unique opportunity for people to hear about, if you do invest in something you're really great at, even if it's not overlanding, it gives you that opportunity to have an exit that will allow you to travel. So I think that can be a really meaningful and effective way to see the world, is to build a business that you're really great at, have that exit or transition, or have your team run it for you, and then off you go. I mean, Yvon Chouinard's another great example of that. I mean, he built an incredible business, and now he goes and fly fishes all over the world, wherever he wants to do.
Yeah, and if I remember right, he motivated his employees by giving stock and all this to his employees. So it was kind of became like Black Diamond, that they were a sponsor of mine years ago, the climbing company, and it's owned by the employees.
Yeah.
And so, there was a lot of those really took it seriously. It's like, I'm going to share the success, and they really did.
Yeah, and it makes such a difference. So there's a couple cars behind you here. So tell me about let's talk about the black one, because we talked about making it to the summit, and you had a car in mind that you wanted to build for yourself as a little bit of a gift to yourself when you had that exit. Let's talk about that black car real quick, because it's cool.
That was I love Mercedes, and it mainly became because of Unimogs. I've probably owned 12 to 15 Unimogs in the last 20 years. And so it kind of made me just a Mercedes fan. It makes no sense. Like, some people are like so hardcore, Ram or Ford or whatever. I have this Mercedes thing. But I don't think they make these really fast cars, but they look kind of boring.
Yeah.
And so I had this crazy idea of taking a C63 naturally aspirated, so it's a 2014, one of the last years they did. Big V8. I think it produces just under 500 horsepower from the factory. But then I wanted an old body on it. So this car, we took a 1959 Ponton. I just think it's the weirdest, coolest body, where it's all round and big hips on it and stuff. And then we added some fiberglass, big wide body, on it. And so that car, it looks like a 1959 car, but it's modified up to 600 horsepower, and it's got a coil-over suspension and things on it that's like custom. So it's really a race car, and anyway, I just wanted something different. My whole life I've been different, wanted something different. So that's my little kind of just fun cruise around.
And it's cool. You open up the door. I mean, you open up the door of a 1950s sedan, and you look on the inside, and it's a 25 15, 20, whatever the year is,
Yes,
car on the inside.
it is, and it drives that way. And then we took that car and increased its performance anyway. But yeah, the inside's the same seats that came out of these red leather, nice seats out of the 2014, I believe is what that is, the C63 AMG. And and it's dumb. You rationalize like, oh, what's my reward? I need to do something. And so that was kind of the build to, as a kind of like to try and just celebrate the success.
Yeah.
You know, we did a big trip as a family and stuff too. But there's just some things like, okay, I want my time back. With that time, what are some things that would be pretty fun?
Yeah,
And
and it's
so,
got you should have fun, and everybody's got a different version of fun. I mean, you know, you've heard the podcast that I do with Matt, and Matt's got his own versions of fun. Like for me, it was, you know, recently I went and picked up that old Ford pickup that was just the one that I remember as a kid. That was my attachment to it, was all those early memories of driving with my mom to the beach in Southern California, and she was shifting, you know, this
mhm.
old Ford. I remember these moments like as if they were yesterday. And so to find an old Ford pickup that was just like the one my mom and dad owned, and to be able to fly my dad out to LA and pick it up and go around together, it's that connection to cars that I think is so fun. And I mean, that thing that you've got here, and we'll put some photos of it here in the podcast because it is rad. I mean, it belongs in a Batman film for sure. I mean, that thing is, and when it fires up, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I
Yeah,
totally get
there's a
it.
big motor there. But the worst thing, like, you're in trouble because you teased us all on social media, like, sold my company.
I got my midlife
I'm gonna go
crisis.
buy. The whole world's thinking Scott's going to buy some red Italian something or other, and all of a sudden, boom! And it was just like totally you too. It's like, of course he's gonna do that. Of course Scott would. And then it's like the guilt of, okay, I go build up some stupid Mercedes. He goes and buys an old pickup truck. But
So I'm gonna confess it to you, which means I'm confessing it to the world. But the next car that I've been looking for, and it's a Mercedes, and I just think that they're so neat. It's a 300 CD, so it's a coupe. It's a Mercedes sedan coupe. I guess it wouldn't be a sedan. It's a Mercedes coupe,
okay,
and they had that OM 606 turbo diesel in them.
yeah,
So a two-door coupe with the turbo diesel. They were like a mid 80, late 80s car, and they're just so neat. And I've seen them all over the world. I mean, it's one of the like Chris Scott, who's someone that I admire so much in the overland industry. He used to drive these old 240Ds and 300Ds all over Africa, like two-wheel
hmm,
drive sedans, because you blend in entirely with the local population. That's what they're driving.
right,
All the
yeah.
taxis are like an old Mercedes like that. So I have been on the hunt for a 300 CD, a turbo diesel coupe that Mercedes made in like the mid 80s. So,
Oh,
well,
that's cool. That's and
you'll need to
and
give me a 3 day head start if we were to ever race.
no, it is.
But
I also like. I've never really wanted like the crazy supercars. One
yeah,
is they depreciate like
yeah,
crazy.
that's
So
true.
most everything you'll see that I've had, it's more like, can it hold its value? As
Hmm.
long as you bought it and it's not like got major problems, it should always be worth similar to what you paid. A lot of them, just you own them a few years, they actually have gotten more valuable. But I love something that has like some soul to it. And so I haven't, and also like you go buy a brand new Ferrari or something. I mean, it's built for the track. I'm not close to any sort of a track. And so if I drive it the way it's built to be driven, I'm going to end up in jail.
That's right.
And so I kind of like an older car that's not necessarily a crazy fast. It just as it's thrilling. I love a manual transmission. Just the more points you're doing, the one that just feels a little bit raw.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so most of what I've bought and stuff like that is more of like what makes me kind of giggle near the speed limit.
Well,
You
you've
know,
got, I mean, like one of the ones in your shop right now, it's this old G-Wagon soft top cabriolet, you know, G-Wagon. I mean, that thing is cool.
yeah, it showed up. Someone traded me for it for one of our cabin chassis old military trucks, and so I came back. My son's been in the hospital, but so I came. Hence this little souvenir here. But I came back this weekend and jumped in it, and it's gutless,
Yeah.
and it's amazing.
I know it makes you
It's
smile.
amazing. And so then I come back and I've got like Cole, and we have a mechanic here that specializes in like these unique cars we have. Flew him in from L.A. And when he's going to lunch, where I'm like, just take what you want. He keeps taking that Mercedes. He's like, it's the slowest thing I've ever driven, but it's the most fun thing I've ever driven. He's driven like crazy high end cars because he specialized in working on those. And he's like, this little Wolf. It's like there's so much soul to that little thing.
Totally.
I mean, what is it? Barely over 100 horse or something like
they're
that.
like 111 horsepower.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And it will still go if you needed to go into town. It will go 60.
Yeah.
It's happier at 55, but it goes 55. But yet, when you're just tooling around town, and it's like there's these huge holes between gears because there's no it's something. There's some soul to that car
Absolutely.
that really makes it fun to drive.
Yeah, it's all mechanical, old school,
Mm-hmm.
and they if you take care of it, a car like that'll run forever.
Yeah.
They really, like the Mercedes in that era were just incredible reliability. Yeah, they're definitely. So you've got of your fleet, excluding the one that you built as kind of your reward for selling your business. Which one's your favorite, do you think?
Without question, I've got a newer Unimog that, like I said, I've owned 12 to 15 of them, and everyone you're like, oh, this one smells and sounds like a tractor, and it's exhausting to drive. But Unimogs have so many gears, and the portal axles, and there's just something magical. Anyone who's been ever driven a Unimog, they're just like, there's something I can't explain. It's just, and so I was over the course of years, I've been able to like sell one and upgrade. And I have a 4-door, it's called a Doka Unimog, that has a top speed faster than it's mechanically safe to drive, but it will go nearly 100 miles an hour because of its gearing, which is unheard of because the Unimog's Mercedes, they have like the Autobahn and stuff like that. You're heavy, even though it's like this unlimited speed limit for heavy trucks, I think it's 100 kilometers an hour, somewhere in there. So most of these trucks you bring over, their top speed's in the 50s.
Yeah.
And so for this one to be geared that way, and then it's got probably 3 times the horsepower that most do. It has air conditioning.
Yeah.
It's double sound deadened.
I drove it yesterday.
Yeah,
It was
you
awesome.
drove it. It's like
awesome.
It's still the Unimog. It still has all the fun factors, but it's also like my wife and I 2 weeks ago drove it all the way to Moab. I think that's 6 or 7 hours, going 70 to 80 miles an hour the whole way. So, and it's so powerful. It doesn't slow down on grades. We go the way there. We're with buddies that have $150,000 modified Jeeps, and we wipe the floor with them.
Yep.
And then we drive it all the way home.
Amazing.
And like it's a unicorn. That's the car. I can't imagine I would ever sell that unless financially I just needed to.
Yeah.
But that's the one. That's my one car.
Well,
for sure.
yesterday when I drove it, you're like, Scott, you got to put it in. It looks like it has about 18 transfer cases. But no, you had me shift one transfer case in, and then the next one in, and then there's this C classification set of gears in the manual transmission. So I was in like C1 extra double low transfer case, in the direct drive, and you said, okay, now let out the clutch, and I was like, all right, what's going on here? And he's like, no, you got to open the door to see the tire turning. Like you can't feel that the tire.
You don't know
it's
it's moving, huh?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think it would take a minute for the tire to do one full revolution, maybe longer?
Yeah, I don't know. At least that much. So I believe that first gear, that lowest crawl ratio, because this Unimog has 48 gears because it has a splitter as well on the shifter. I think it's 450 to 1. And I believe like a new Rubicon's
100 to 1.
Is it 100 to 1?
Well, if it has a manual, yeah.
Okay. So it's, over 4 times reduced from that. So
Yeah.
it is. I mean, it's so low, but that's why they're able to literally they're known to pull a train because you could let that clutch out and let it just start, it needs that. Or otherwise it would stall if it was geared too high.
Right.
So
Yeah,
Unimogs are just the best.
They're
so cool.
And it looks great. I mean, even the color choice and everything, it's a neat looking vehicle. That huge flatbed back there, I think you'd probably fit 6 motorcycles in that thing.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. So let's talk a little bit about travel. So you've traveled around the world as a mountain climber, as a multi-sport athlete. What are some of your favorite places that you've experienced, or what are some crazy stories that you could share about your own journeys?
I think I have 9 lives. I've had near death on, and sometimes it's a canyon or it's a mountain that shouldn't necessarily be real technical. But one of my scariest moments was on Mount Moran, which is near the Grand Teton in Wyoming. And they have this thing called a Skillet Glacier, which is, kind of a sheet of ice. It gets pretty steep at the top, not vertical, but steep enough that, you need double mountain axes and stuff. And so we had a really hot summer where we were climbing it, and the sun came up and was cooking the skillet, this panhandle of that, and it started to release rocks because it had less snow than it normally had. And so you're climbing, up this glacier, this couloir that goes up towards the top, and all of a sudden these boulders start releasing.
Wow.
And they're hitting like every 50 feet, and then tumbling, and they're coming down at you. And anyway, one time, I'm here with I had a mountain axe and then an ice axe, and it's coming, and you're sitting there waiting, like, because it's kind of a runnel where it creates kind of a V that's really steep, and it's coming down. And anyway, last moment I flip around, and to avoid a big rock, and a littler rock like this hit my wrist and broke my wrist right here.
Wow.
But it was like, it was scary to go down because we were so close to the summit, and so that was, trying to grab purchase with that axe with a broken wrist was miserable. That was one I thought I was dead. We got trapped in ice in a slot canyon. We did a slot canyon in the winter, and an ice dam created in this, what would be an easier slot canyon. You got to get permits for Buckskin Gulch, Pariah Canyon, and anyway, that was a near death where it was enough. I was hosting the outdoor radio show at a time, and we had Global Star was one of our sponsors, so I would host the show. And anyway, so I had a satellite phone. It was so close to like calling and just having someone come in and helicopter us out of there, because we were in ice up to our neck, ice water and stuff like that in January. I thought we were done then. The best thing we did is that we didn't call for help, and we actually hiked back out. I believe it's 16 miles or something back out, and it saved our legs. My friend Kevin ended up at the University of Utah burn unit because frostbite's like a burn.
Wow.
He had no feeling. His legs were numb and stuff. And my shins, because all those layers of ice that we were kind of trying to get through, so there'd be like a half-inch layer of ice that was hit as you're breaking it. So my shins are all hamburgered up. So that's fun. I've had lots of those experiences. There's one I were climbing Aconcagua in South America. I was leading a team there to climb, and you're on the mountain.
It's a beautiful mountain.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
I've only seen it from a long distance.
But the drive over from Chile to
it.
Argentina, probably going to Mendoza, which is a great little town. That's where I'd get our permits. But anyway, we were there, and that year, when did we climb that? Early 2000s, and I think they had 6 climbers pass away that year on that mountain, and 2 of them were just wrapped in a tarp because you don't have enough energy to barely get yourself up and down this mountain. And so you can see why you just can't pick up a body and take it down. But there was kind of the reality too of my oldest son Cole was about 2 years old. My wife was pregnant with our second son Riker. She was 6 months pregnant, so I didn't win Husband of the Year that year, leaving for a month-long trip while my wife's 6 months pregnant. And I was just there, and most of the climbing I've done is like 1 day or 3 days, and it's gas on. On those big mountains, you have to acclimatize. I started to get really bored.
Yeah.
Because it's like you climb, go drop off a bag, come down, hang out a day or two. And get to a certain area, hang out 2 days. Let your body acclimatize, and then you're doing it over again. And again, we had like a camera crew, so I'm kind of a boss a little bit, where it's like, hey, do this and do that, and I'm on the radio, calling in, doing radio updates and stuff. And I just started looking like, again, it goes like that good, better, best. Climbing mountains was good. It wasn't the best thing for me to be doing.
Yeah.
My family was the best thing for me to be doing, and that's when I turned the gas off and just said, I can still do some outdoor stuff. I don't need to be risking my life at this level. I love these boys and my wife too much.
Yeah, and they need you.
They were the best thing in my life, and climbing was good, but not the best thing.
Yeah.
And so I needed to dial it back.
Yeah.
And it was kind of that moment where I came back off of that and pivoted into the disaster cleanup business that I did and stuff like that. And then I still did outdoor stuff, and I wanted to do it with my boys.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're looking at it going, if this kills me or hurts me or does something, like my goal is to do this with my sons.
Yeah, sure.
And I need to protect myself so that I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I just had that feeling on that mountain. And especially when you're walking past dead bodies, it's become really real. You're
You know,
like,
it takes a lot of courage to climb a mountain like Aconcagua, but it also, I think it takes a little bit more courage than that to know when to stop
yes,
and put other people first. So that can be hard for people to do, to like take their eye off what they see as the prize or always thought was the prize, and actually go towards the thing you really need in your life. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a challenging thing to do.
And I'm glad I did it because it opened other doors. There's like to be able to host the outdoor radio show was such a great opportunity, but the reason why they asked me to do it is because of my experience in the outdoors.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it opened up a bunch of doors. I just feel so blessed, Scott.
Yeah.
Like my family is so great.
Oh,
They love me.
It's been
They
so
love
fun.
me. I mean, what
Like,
greater thing?
more do you need?
Yeah, it's like, as goofy as I am, they love me, and
Yeah.
I love them, and
Yeah.
that's where I find my joy.
Yeah.
And luckily, they all love the outdoors. Like I've got 3 sons and a daughter, and they love the outdoors.
Yeah.
And it's just so, that's so great that I'm so blessed that my kids also that have the same hobbies and passions that I do.
Well, just like looking at your Pinsgauer that you guys built for ski runs. You built a Pinsgauer just to like do backcountry skiing.
It's just to drink, throw the family in the ski gear and just do hot laps on the backside out of bounds.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. So we're gonna talk about something that's a little bit fun. So I'm gonna put you in the hot seat here. So last night you talked about, and I think you're right. You talked about there's nothing more. There's no easier choice than buying a Rubicon. There's no easier choice than buying a 911 Porsche. There's no easier choice than buying a BMW GS. And I think you're right. So, like all of these things are, they don't have that funk factor. They don't have that little bit of quirkiness that brings a smile to your face, even when the old G-Wagon is only going 25 miles an hour on the highway.
Yeah.
So, they're all like these exceptional machines, and they are the choice that a lot of people make. So now, if it's not a BMW GS for you, then what is it?
So, yeah, we were joking last night, and I've never met your co-host,
Matt.
Matt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's probably good because he sounds like him and I would be bad examples to each other.
You guys would
Yes,
be enabling each other.
We'd both be broke as could be because, you need this and this and this car and this car. But I think he loves Porsches.
He does, yeah.
And I don't get it. and I'm going to offend everybody because it's like, I don't like BMW GSs.
Yeah.
I don't like Porsche 911s, and I don't like Jeep Rubicons. And they're like, okay, everyone's just tuned out of the podcast right now. This guy's what he's talking about. And here's my reason why. They're too good.
Yeah.
I feel like all 3 of those machines make a beginner and intermediate.
Yeah.
So a beginner can jump in a Rubicon on 37s with lockers and do about anything in Moab.
Yep.
And get themselves in a lot of trouble, but it's almost too easy.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievably affordable.
Yep.
A 911's not affordable. It's an unbelievable value because they don't depreciate.
Yep.
They're too good. Like if I wanted to set my personal lap time around a racetrack, I want a 911.
Yeah.
GT3, because they make you better.
Yeah.
They're so easy. But they don't sound good. They don't look good. Like a $70,000 Boxster, in my opinion, to the normal person that's not a Porsche person, looks no different than a $450,000 GT3 RS.
Sure.
To the normal person, it's like, that's a Porsche. They don't understand the difference. They look the same. And they don't have any soul. And then a BMW, I was telling you that my boys and I have gone to Europe, and we always rent. Now, to tell you how good they are, I always rent a BMW GS because when I'm tired or if I'm the one that's I'm the old guy, if I'm on the bike all day, it makes you a better rider.
Yeah.
It's easier.
They're so comfortable. They're balanced right. And so I'll switch one of my boys and jump on like a really sporty bike, a Ducati or something. We always rent one fun one crazy one. And I'm leaving them. I'm leaving them 2 towns behind. I'm on this Ducati. The sounds, it fights you. You think you're going to die every turn. And you get to there and I'm like, I'm going to eat a sandwich and have a Coke. And I stop, put the kickstand down, and there's my boy on the BMW.
Hi, Scott here. I just wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about expeditionportal.com. Expeditionportal.com is our website, and it's also our community forum. We are celebrating 20 years of expeditionportal.com this year in 2025, and there are nearly 300,000 members on the community forum that talk about incredibly diverse topics all around the world. Unique vehicles, things like Land Cruisers and Land Rovers, and what to do at the border with Ethiopia and Africa, all the way to some of the favorite campsites and adventure stories from the community. We also have the homepage, which is filled with nearly 6,000 articles that are all available to you for free right there on expeditionportal.com. We have 2 to 5 articles per day that go up on the website that are written by our very experienced staff, which includes global travelers like Graham Bell and Ashley Giordano. I have many articles on there and many contributors like Dan Greck and others from around the world. So please take a minute and check out expeditionportal.com. It's a great way to support the podcast and to connect with the community.
And then vice versa. We switch, and he thinks he's left me 2 towns behind. The BMW just sounds like a sewing machine. It's so good, but it doesn't make me giggle.
Yeah.
And so most of the vehicles I buy, so for off-roading, I'd rather have a Unimog. I like shifting through all the gears. I like I got to choose lines. I got to do, and then for the racetrack, I like something that's like manual and loud and screams and
So talk about
crazy.
what would be your, I mean, that's your track car now, the one in front of the Mercedes. What is that one called?
That's a TVR Sagres.
Okay.
I think it's the only one in the U.S., but it'd be England's version of a Dodge Viper.
Sure.
So I've heard once that Dodge Vipers are like the most expensive car to insure because they'll kill you, because they're just, same thing, no traction control, no airbags, no ABS. It's just a race car that's barely street legal.
Sure.
And a lot of Vipers are built that way too. So it's kind of just a British Viper, but
it looks cool.
It's like when you downshift, the barking, and I don't know how, there's just, and it's right-hand drive, so you're shifting left-handed. So like it really is a car that I can go drive the speed limit, and it makes me laugh the whole time.
Yeah, sure.
Where some of these really high-end cars, you're driving the speed limit, you're so under their performance, and it's automatics and stuff. So anyway, that's my funny thing of like why I don't like those 3.
So then what would be your motorcycle of choice then if you're not going to get the GS?
So I've got a 2016 Ducati Multistrada Enduro.
Yeah, those things are insane.
I'm 6'3", and when I realized that we had the similar bike but not the Enduro. So the Enduro has a taller suspension, which puts me higher off the ground. So it made it so that it was as comfortable for me as the BMW. Now, it doesn't make any sense. A BMW is like 7 or 8 out of 10 on everything. The Ducati's like a 5 or 4 out of 10 at everything other than sound.
And it looks pretty good too.
Yeah, it's the sound and the way it fights you. It's in a good way. And so I bought the Ducati. It makes no sense because I just wanted that 10 out of 10 with those 2 things.
Yeah.
So I have a Ducati Multistrada. We have a bunch of Moto Guzzi's. You own one of those too. There's something magical about a Moto Guzzi, the way they sound, the way they feel.
Yeah.
They're not the greatest motorcycle as far as like if Consumer Reports rated motorcycles, it's probably gonna be bottom of the list. But but they also rate Jeeps that way.
That's true.
Yeah, but
exactly.
And until you own a Jeep, you realize how good they are and where you can go in them.
That's right.
And convertibles and everything else. But
that's the reason why I had the Moto Guzzi in my office. It was like I had it as like a piece of art. Like there was a couple of years I didn't have time to ride it really. So it just sat in my office just looking beautiful.
And they're great to look at, aren't they? They're so great to look at. So yeah, but it's also, I don't understand why ice cream companies make anything besides Rocky Road. Like that's the best ice cream. Like why are they wasting their time? So I get it. And luckily, how lucky are we in this time of our lives that there's all these different flavors of ice cream.
Yeah.
That there's all these cars we can all buy and we can outfit what we want.
Yeah.
And so I have a different taste than most of the world.
Yeah, but it's something that puts a smile on your face. And it's good to know what you like and not do things because someone else will think it's cool. It's the thing that you think is cool and puts a smile on your face. So for me, like an old Ford pickup or a Mercedes 300 CD is like the thing, or I was looking at a tin top Samurai the other day, which would have been a really bad choice. But it's like these are the quirky little cars that to me make me smile and make me want to drive them around.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, if Samurai, it's a good example. They're dirt cheap.
Yeah,
they're dirt cheap. Those can be for little money can be made to off road crazy.
Yeah, because
for
they're so
little
compact.
money.
Yeah.
Got this little tiny motor in them, and they just crawl. They gear them right, and they just flex like crazy. And it is like I've been down in Moab. It's like a samurai convention of something. I'm like, whoa!
Yeah,
Like they're doing everything that people are doing in heavily modified Jeeps, and
that's right.
yeah, it's pretty
That's
cool.
right. And it's smaller than a side by side.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, let's. We're getting closer to the end of the podcast. This is. I think we got to have. We got to plan for some other ones because I think you and I could spend the next 6 hours talking. But, let's talk a little bit around building overland vehicles because you've built everything from, Unimogs to G wagons to your current Rams and Fords. One of the things that you guys are doing that's really interesting to me is these 550. I would call them a super truck. I mean, they really are like you think about like a TRX, which is a super truck, or a or a Raptor, which is also a super truck. But what you're building is something that it's like a multi-tool at the highest levels of capability. So you guys tell me about these F550s that you're building with these tray beds and like what inspired you to build something like that because they're so unique.
yeah. So first off, anyone that buys one of our trucks is financially stupid. They don't make any financial sense. But if you want just, but we all of us, if you have a little bit of money, it might be fly fishing that you spend dumb money on, or just
Yeah,
hunting,
sure.
or everyone has a hobby that they, if your kids are into lacrosse, you're broke.
Yeah.
There's like all these hobbies we have. But what we were building on the Ford and Ram 5500 series or F550s, and we were using like liquid springs and designing, working with our own bumpers, and then doing a semi central tire inflation, and we put all these things on these trucks, and they rode so good. And so I've always usually had like a 1 ton or a 3/4 ton to tow the boat or to, haul our snow bikes. We have snow motorcycles, things like that, or dirt bikes. And a 1/2 ton just wasn't. Sometimes they're rated to tow, but they don't feel safe towing.
Sure.
Even if it's only 7,000 pounds, a 1/2 ton, and they're rated for 12, you just know it's not
You're pushing
ideal.
the limits, yeah.
And then you always are talking about payload on your show. So I realized I'm like, I think we can make the same suspension and stuff we're putting on on the big with the campers and everything fully integrated. Like I think we could build a pickup and then end up with like a 10,000 pound payload when we're done. And so we used a lot of the same systems and technology and liquid springs. And you'll find out today. So you can call me a liar if I'm
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
quick.
excited to drive it.
But
Yeah.
but we've been able to make them drive similar to a three. So we're taking like an F550. We got 43-inch tires on it. The brakes, the axles, everything about them are overbuilt compared to a 3/4 ton, or even or a 1 ton. Everything about them's bigger. They're typically made to be dump trucks and stuff like that. Well,
Sure.
now but the problem is if you've ever driven one with the stock suspension, if you're not hauling 25,000 pounds and you got 5,000 pounds in the back of it, it's going
It's
to beat
abusive,
you.
yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
And so we've made these things empty to drive similar with no weight in them, and just one of our utility beds with no weight in them to be able to handle and drive like a 3/4 ton. Another magical thing is because it's a cabin chassis, your turning radius, your front tires turn at a much sharper angle than a 3/4 ton or 1 ton or even a 1/2 ton.
Sure.
So we've got these trucks that just look insane. They're massive, and you can daily drive them.
Yeah.
And then we build this utility bed because you're taking the dualies, so you have a wide rear end on these trucks. We're putting super singles and keeping the wide rear end, but now we're able to use and put these utility boxes, and we try and make them cool looking. That's important to me. Casey, my partner, makes sure they work. I want to make sure they look cool. But now you still have between these huge boxes, you have these huge storage boxes below the frame. We're utilizing every square inch. You could load so much stuff in these trucks, but then you still have over 4 feet in between the boxes above as a pickup, and you literally remove 4 screws that they're put in airline track. You can pull these boxes off. 2 people could pull them off in 10 minutes, and now you have a flatbed. So people that want to put like 2 snowmobiles on for the winter,
Or a side by side up there, or
yeah,
you could put like an Overland Explorer vehicle's camper in the back of it. You could, I mean, there. What I really thought was neat is, and I started thinking about is like that would be the one you could own one car and do everything with it. Like you
yeah.
could go take it to Moab and wheel it. You could put a camper on the back of it. You could drive it around the world. You could take it to the Cars and Coffee, and everybody would be losing their mind. So
I love them. I think they
it's kind
really
of neat.
are. If
It's
you had
kind of
one
neat.
car that you wanted to do it all, And we integrate the gooseneck hitches in them. You can tow 34,000 pounds
Yeah.
and have 10,000 pounds in the back of it. Like you could put a 1-ton truck, if it would fit, in the back of our truck
That's
and
crazy.
still be way under payload. And so, yeah, they're great that way. And people that do want, we don't want to build slide-in campers, but a lot of people don't necessarily want to commit to one of our full trucks. They're only going to use 3 times a year for camping
Yep.
and have it sit there. So now they can buy a pickup from us, and there's dozens of slide-in camper manufacturers. They can choose which one they want,
Yep.
and now they can put that in and out. And payload's always a problem because people are putting those massive campers in 1-ton trucks, and you've seen videos of a Ram where it broke the frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're just not built to carry that kind of weight.
Right.
And now payload is not an issue on
Yeah.
our truck.
To have 10,000 pounds of payload, and even with your tray bed and all those boxes and everything else like that, you still probably have 6, 7, 8,000 pounds of payload you could use if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, you're 19.5,
Okay, got
and
it.
so you're still, nearly around that 10,000 pounds of payload.
Even as it sits
Yeah,
with all the stuff,
yeah,
that's incredible. That's
yeah.
incredible.
But usually you sacrifice when it's not hauling all that.
Yeah.
You don't want to drive it because it's so brutal.
Yeah.
This liquid spring suspension, it's an active suspension, so it has steering input. So, and you can change, from comfort to normal to sport. So you can go up a canyon with a camper in the back of it, and in sport mode, almost eliminate the body roll
Yeah.
on that.
Well,
It's
I
different
noticed
to that.
it the other day when I was driving one of your Overland trucks with liquid springs on it. I went into sport mode, and it handled, I mean, it's still a big vehicle, but it handled much better than I expected because of that.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Judd, this has been so fun, man. We're gonna have to plan for more podcasts in the future because we could do the deep dive into any one of those subjects. But what are some things that you share with your team, that you share with people you travel with, share with your kids? What are a couple things that you've learned so far in this journey of life that you'd like to share with the audience?
The first thing that comes to mind is we've kind of adopted it as our family motto. But when my kids were young, I would encourage them, like, if you want to be successful in life, not just financially, you just want to be successful. Success, to my opinion, is not money.
Yeah.
I said, make everyone around you feel important.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of adopted that as our family. If you ask any of my kids, what's your family motto? It's make everyone around you feel important. And so that's how I've tried raising our kids, and that's how I feel. I feel like it's not forced either.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you meet somebody new, or as a kid, you meet an adult, how do you make them feel important? Ask them about themselves. Don't talk about yourself. Ask them about them, and do stuff. And in business, it's usually people want to do business with people they like.
Yeah.
And if you help people achieve their goals, you make them feel important. You do things. So that's the one thing that's our family motto is. I
love that,
We
Jud.
always like make other people feel important.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you find joy in that. You don't if you don't realize that selfishly, it's actually making you feel important.
Yeah.
You're more liked. You get along with people. And it makes your life better when you are serving others and making them feel better.
Yeah. Extending a little bit of kindness into the world, and the world needs more of that. So that's a really beautiful piece of advice, Judd, and I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for being on the podcast.
This has
with
been
me.
fun.
Yeah, and we appreciate you all listening, and just remember to be a little bit kinder, maybe make others feel a little more important at the end of the day. And we'll talk to you next time.